Hey there, Leo. This is Seven Scorpion Tarot, and I want to welcome you to tonight's reading. So, tonight, at least at the time of this recording, I did not see any planets in your sign, so I thought we'd do an archetype reading, much like the one that I did not too long ago for Sagittarius, when there was also nothing in their sign. So, we'll do a self, shadow, and ego. And for the self position, we'll be looking at the creator and the artist. For the shadow, we'll be looking at the performer, and for the ego, we'll be looking at the ruler. So this should be interesting because I liked how that Sagittarius reading went. It was fun to get into different layers of the sign. And I think it'll be fun here too. So, the creator and or artist in the self. So when I was noodling on this, hi kitten, are you a little lion? Yeah. I think you're a Taurus. I'm pretty sure. Uh, but when I was noodling on this, when I was thinking the creator, the the idea of the artist was not how the creator formed in my mind. Hi. Uh, it was more like God mode is what came to mind, like a creator being. Uh, it's a little more meta, so you can take that really any way you want to. But either way, whether you look at that as the artist or in a more divine fashion, this could be what the authentic self, the higher self, however you want to refer to that, is desiring to create or what's waiting to bubble up. Um, as a new creation. Um, Ma'am, what do you want? I'm not talking to you right now. I'm sorry. Um, and this might also depend too. You can get another layer deeper with it, depending on where Leo sits in your chart. I'm a Leo descendant, and so how would that express in that format? That might actually come out in a really shadowy way for me, because I think the descendant, if I'm not mistaken, is like your supposed to be your like ideal relationship match. I might be wrong about that. I don't know a whole lot about the descendant. But if that was a shadow expression, that might be codependency, me adapting to someone else because I want to make it work rather than just accepting the, incompatibilities, things like that. And there's also the strength card to consider because in the self, the highest self, I would take that as major arcana energy. Are you trying to create something that makes you feel strong or does actually lend you strength? Because that is what art does for all of us, whether or not you are the actual creator or not. And I can't remember where I had heard this, but like art is the antidote to propaganda. And so if there's any Leos or anybody of any sign right now who's looking to create some art for any reason whatsoever, do that. We live in a dystopian hellscape. We all need an escape, whether or not that is in the actual creation process or the consumption process of the art. And maybe a little art party, with some friends. Uh, put your art on display in whoever has the biggest living room or the biggest outdoor area that they have access to, uh, whether that's an actual backyard or I remember one of my first apartments, it backed up right to like a green belt area, like a nice wooded area. That would have been fun to have a little art party there. But maybe this is your pieta, your masterpiece that's waiting to emerge from the higher self, something within the psyche that you're waiting to get access to so that you can find a medium for expression for it. And it also does not need to be that deep. you know, it could be like I have my colored pencils set out here to remind myself to do something creative just for me, you know. And that, in my case, uh, I like coloring mandalas. I find them really, really soothing. Toss on an album and just go to town. Two of pens, so two of swords. Indecision? Question mark. Catch 22 by Joseph Heller is the book choice for this, and this is the banned book tarot. Hmm. So deciding what to create. And I know the example that I went to was right to art, which of course can take many forms, but this might be creating a new path for yourself, a path where the authentic self can express itself. You may be coming from a path, from a place that didn't honor the true you. And I don't want to call anybody out here, talking to me. uh, was it you who were stifling that expression for whatever reason that may be? You might have adverse childhood experiences where you got in trouble for expressing the authentic self. Um, too angry was something that I frequently heard about myself, my music taste, my poetry, things like that. So there might be some analysis paralysis here of you've got that pull, that tug from the past, a past that doesn't exist anymore, depending on, what your situation is. And despite being out of those situations, they can have such a grip on you for many, many, many years. Like I've noticed that with my money habits. I have a lot of poor people habits with money. Uh, like I'm still lower middle class. I haven't quite made it to middle class. Uh, but I'm doing better than I used to be. Like I'm not going to bed for dinner anymore. I'm not skipping meals because I literally cannot afford it. Or I'm not living off of ramen noodles and multivitamins anymore, So improvements have been made. I still picked up a lot of really bad financial habits from the really like tightening the belt and like literally having to because I was quite thin. uh, and despite like I graduated college in, oh my god, a while ago. Um, and that example of me, going to bed for dinner, that was from my college days. I still am doing things from that time that I really don't necessarily need to do anymore. Like, they're not the worst habits in the world. They're also not improving things either. It's just kind of keeping me in a rut. And that back and forth might keep you doing a dance over like this liminal threshold of one foot in the past, one foot in the future. And if you are still struggling with things of the past, of course, my advice would be check out professional help as you're able to. Always an advocate for therapy and support groups. Uh, Compartmentalization, though, is a really important skill that I've learned as part of my trauma therapy. And you can put this stuff on the shelf. It's not going to go anywhere, but it's like getting a monkey off your back, like dealing with addiction. Like I was really confused when I started doing this work as to why people referred to it as recovery. And just it's so intricately intertwined with addiction and how that affects the brain and how those processes are similar. Like you almost get addicted to rumination and these unsafe situations, unhealthy situations. There's like a twisted sense of comfort that comes with them because they're familiar. Just because something makes you feel comfortable doesn't mean it's good for you. And that can take form in really nefarious ways, like overworking, uh, obsessing about every calorie you eat. That can get into some pretty dangerous territory for some people, obsessing over those things like that. It's going to just depend on your situation how that manifests. But I'll start shuffling for the shadow, the performer. But that's actually a good segue, because you might feel the need to perform if you've got stuff in your past that is leaving you one foot in, one foot in the past, one foot in the future. It's really hard to check in with yourself about like what am I experiencing right now. This is something I had talked about in the cancer reading, was the bypassing out of necessity. That if you get into situations that leave you wanting, needing for more, you may not have time to sit with those wounds before putting them on the shelf, before you got to move on, before you got to get to the next necessity. And it's just the way things are sometimes. And when you're in situations like that, that's when the creator, the performer, the artist starts to wither in the self. Uh, and it's such a shame, you know, of like, why are we doing this? Why are we just chasing unachievable goals, which is now, for a lot of us, a really uncomfortable amount of us, from what I'm seeing, which I think is not reported correctly, personally. Uh, Lost my train of thought, but like, what are we supposed to do if it's just this constant uphill Sisyphean battle that everybody in charge, for the most part, pretty much just wants to bury their heads in the sand? Like, as long as their mortgage is paid, as long as they're doing well, right? I don't want to keep going on the same tangent I did on the last reading. But that might make you feel the need to perform of, I gotta get a good report card at work so that I can receive not enough money to pay my bills, and then they can keep asking me for more and more and more while providing less and less and less. And I think a big cause for that, it's that might be part of that indecision that one pathway that we're fed is just work harder. I cannot tell you how many times I have, like, my fumes have been running on fumes, and I try to talk to people about what's going on, and they're like, just try harder, just work harder, just do more. I can't. I literally cannot. You know, I I'm a human, not a robot. It's like there's a coffee shop that I used to work at, and I was a manager there for a bit. And I had asked my district manager, like, what is with this weird trend where I'll see like one store on the corner and then directly across the way is another one? It's like a mirror image of each other. Like, why are they so close together? Don't you want these like more spread out? And what she had told me was that when one coffee shop is spinning its wheels as fast as it can and it literally cannot take on any more demand, they open another one. It's to absorb the overflow from the demand that's already been established at the first one, and then it flows into the next. So they're doing so much business that they can catch their own business. That's insane to me. Like, how is competition ever supposed to get in there? uh and that can make you feel the need to perform because it is brutal out there, and people are in such desperate situations that there is always another person who will do more for less than you. And it's not to say they don't value themselves the way you do. They might just be more desperate. And the employers who are being predatory are willing to prey upon them. Doesn't have anything to do with the two applicants. The applicants are not the problem. It's the people willing to prey on them that are. And we need to start calling them out on it. Uh, but when you got mouths to feed, the heck else are you supposed to do? I don't know, man. This one. Eight of paper. The giver. Lois Lowry. So pentacles. So hard work, mastery of work. Interesting. In the performer. That does seem to kind of vamp off what I was saying. Uh, hmm. So a master of your craft. Oh, maybe this is the indecision. Maybe the shadow, there's some insecurity coming up that's causing the hemming and hawing of like, which path do I take? Which way do I go? Of this skill that I've already mastered, I know what to do. It's familiar. It's that comfort doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you, you know? That doesn't mean reliability is bad for you though. Like we can't all just quit our jobs and go backpacking in Europe. I don't think they want people from my country to go there anyway. At least not right now. And honestly, I get it. uh, but yeah, that definitely feels right. Of that performer aspect of the psyche could emerge from the shadow and beeline into the persona, that external part of the psyche of it might come forward into that external realm to interact with others, to protect the artist, to protect the creator. Because this aspect may be underdeveloped depending on, how things have gone for you. Of like I was so creative when I was in school, like middle school and even elementary school. The bits of that I remember. But in middle school, like I was in art class, uh, choir, band, creative writing, and all those perishable skills, most of them, not all of them. I still like to write. Uh, but they went to the wayside in the interest of labor because I had no choice. I didn't have an option not to labor. I had in college, I was working full time and going to school full time. That was the only way I was going to get a degree. And there is literally no time to be creative under those circumstances. I mean, yes, might technically get down to like, oh, I have a free 10 minutes in the day, like whatever. But you don't have the brain power really to do anything meaningful. Uh, like I think that's reflected in my picking things up and putting them down and picking things up and putting them down. Like I just don't have the time to stick to it, or hadn't. And indecision may be rooted in trying to protect the artist. I'll start shuffling for the ego, for the ruler. So the ruler, might come in. This has both, and all of these aspects do, but that shadow and that light expression. Uh, Now I could see the ruler coming in as really domineering and like authoritarian, of like putting up a shield wall in front of the artist, like really taking a harsh tact about protecting the artist, protecting that authentic self. And the light aspect of that, though, could be a softer approach. That could be more of the Empress energy rather than the Emperor, uh, of just the progress that you've made to get to this point, to where the creator, the artist, has space to feel comfortable expressing itself. You're not willing to let that go. That yes, you might feel insecure in your situation, but you now may be prioritizing that aspect of self. Because maybe, like me, you had to let it go for a considerable amount of time. And that cost might just be too high to do again. Six of Words, Chronicles of Narnia, and the Lonely Island. Was that like an intermission? I don't know if that was actually a full song. They were talking about the Chronicles of Narnia. But Six of Words, Six of Wands. So public victory. And look, Lion. I know it's not the strength card, but still. Aslan, I think is what the lion's name was. The uh do not cite the old ways to me. I was there when they were written. So this is somebody who's been through it, somebody who's seen quite a bit, in the ruler. And you might be staring down, these two paths, and maybe you're at like a threshold guardian of sorts, of someone's telling you like, oh, you'll never make it, as I don't know, the next guy in Slipknot who hits the trash can. Whatever it is you want to do with your life. Um, he probably makes an ungodly amount of money doing that. I don't even want to know. But this is the Audacity deck. We'll get an underlying energy here. And but that might be the ruler taking charge and standing up to that threshold guardian, which might be you, that might be the saboteur in the self, of maybe you're coming up on a new opportunity or something, and that insecure part of self in the shadow might be trying to steer you back to what feels comfortable, even though that's not necessarily healthy. Uh, and fear is tough. That's a tough one. I see the way people talk about fear as this thing to just like brush off, like, and it's just not something to live in. I try not to knock any specific emotions as like that emotion is bad in and of itself. Like, no, it's not. It's just an emotion. Uh, and it's okay to be scared. If you were never scared of anything, you wouldn't have the option or the opportunity to be courageous or brave. That those require fear. But this is public victory. and take public for what you will. uh this could be you're taking a promotion at work and it's announced to your work team or something. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the public eye, but something that's not completely hidden. The devil. Huh. And that's interesting, because the last thing I said before I pulled that card was something that's not completely hidden. And in this depiction, the skeleton is in the reflection, and she's in her meat suit here in the foreground, and you've got all the cosmetics and whatnot here too. So it's like she is trying to hide something. Oh, maybe that's the devil energy of the artist, the creator, wasn't accepted. So now you try and hide those creations away, or that aspect of self that you are, in fact, a creative person. Huh. And that's very shadowy of not wanting to put your art out there unless it's accepted. Um, Not everybody is going to love what you say or do. It's just the way it be, you know? And who cares? That putting the art out there gives it the opportunity for the people who are looking for something like that to find it. And they'll never have that chance unless you put it out there. Prison Song by System of a Down, and A Home Cooked Meal for some self care. And I think after dealing with maybe what seems like a heavy situation and being a fork in the road, uh, a home cooked meal that can be really soothing, because no matter what's going on, it I mean, it can just like it gives you the nutrition, it gives you the fuel to keep going, and it's a sense of accomplishment. Because if you've been so busy that you've been getting takeout, or you've been doing frozen meals or easy meals or something like that, and then you switch it up to a home cooked meal where you're involved in every step of that process, then it feels so much better, and it's healthier, you know, generally speaking, depending on what you make. But you can control the ingredients, you can control the portions quite a bit better when it's a home cooked meal and you've got leftovers, so something to look forward to. And if you're making something like chili or something spicy or whatnot, then it's got time to marinate. And chili's always better the next day anyway. But overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates. And if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.